This year, I've set out to clear as many games from my backlog as possible. Each episode, I'm randomly picking 3 games to play for a minimum of 1 hour. No restrictions on genre, no minimum rating, no bullshit. Let's get into it. I've heard lots of things about Darkest Dungeon, both good and bad. It's a grim and unforgiving turn-based dungeon crawler with some roguelike elements. Initially, I wasn't sure if that meant difficult as in hard or bullshit, but either way, I was all for it. I think the one thing that this game really nails is its gothic art style and its sound design. When I first started playing, I was really confused by the combat, and I'm still not sure if I was even doing it properly, but it didn't seem that difficult. Throughout my runs, I kept hearing this quote saying that overconfidence is a slow and insidious killer, which I obviously proceeded to ignore. Yeah, okay. Maybe going into this run with 2 people wasn't the best idea. Maybe I was a bit overconfident. Maybe that is what got me killed. I don't even care. Overall, I think if you're a fan of unforgiving but somewhat grindy games, then this is worth playing if it's on your backlog. If not, you can pick up the full bundle with all DLCs for just under $10 on sale, so it's a great value in my opinion. For me personally, I'd give it an 8.5 out of 10. The premise of Stranded Deep is quite generic. You're a plane crash survivor stranded somewhere in the ocean and you have to figure out how to survive. But regardless of how generic it seemed, I still went into this game pretty open-minded. First of all, let me just say that I absolutely hated playing this game. It started early on when I spent like 10 minutes trying to figure out how to craft a coconut flask, only to realize it's in a separate crafting menu the game didn't tell me about. Once I had finally completed the tutorials, I set out to a different island since I'd already used up almost every single rock and leaf available to me. Big mistake. That was the most boring 4 minutes of paddling my pathetic little raft over there. Since I wasted so much time and my hour was almost over at this point, I was so done with this game, so I decided to go fight a shark with my crude fishing spear. An enemy which I assumed to be the biggest threat to your survival. It wasn't. Not only did I not get hit by it a single time, it was super annoying to swim after. And this fucking crab I accidentally walked into when I landed on the island did more damage than the shark. Honestly, maybe I was just playing the game wrong, but recent Steam reviews are showing mixed ratings, so I'm clearly not alone here. In my opinion, for this game being $20 and only going down to around $14 minimum, you shouldn't waste your time or money on it. Just go play The Forest or something. Coming into this game after just playing Celeste, I thought my first impressions of Splasher were going to be negative. However, I was quite surprised with how much I enjoyed this game. In short, Splasher is like you combine the platforming of Super Meat Boy with the paint of Splatoon, then added in the gel physics from Portal 2 for good measure. And it makes for an extremely fun but somewhat frustrating 2D platformer. Each level has 2 main goals: beat the level and rescue your fellow coworkers. In order to save each coworker, you will have to do everything in the level, including collecting a bunch of this yellow goop to unlock the gate at the end. While you don't have to save all the workers or collect the goop to beat the level, some of the later levels are unlocked by the amount of workers you have saved total. The levels themselves can be very challenging, but there are a ton of checkpoints throughout, so you never really lose a bunch of progress. You have 3 main tools at your disposal to get through these levels: a water gun, which can clear paint, interact with objects, and kill enemies; a red paint gun to spread paint that allows you to stick on the walls or ceiling, or stick enemies in place; and then the yellow paint gun, which spreads this bouncy yellow paint everywhere. In my opinion, the annoying aspect of the game comes from having to constantly micromanage aiming your guns rather than just having to focus on the platforming and dodging obstacles. But the mechanics are fluid and the game really gets you in the groove and makes you want to try and speedrun through each level as fast as possible. And can I say that at this point it's 2 for 2 to have a 2D platformer with a really catchy and fitting soundtrack? The game retails for $14.99, which I think is a bit high, but it frequently goes on sale for $2.99 like it is right now. And at that price, I would definitely say it's worth buying and spending your time on it. A very solid 9 out of 10. So those were the 3 randomly selected games from my backlog this time. Keep in mind that these are just my initial impressions based on about an hour of gameplay. If there are any games I played in an episode that you think I judged unfairly or you'd like to see me revisit, consider leaving a comment down below. Goodbye.